Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello everyone, welcome to Imprint. I'm really excited to have you here today because this episode is really going to be a game changer for you when it comes to learning the skill of interior styling so that you can take your interiors to the next level. Now, learning and applying the skill of interior styling is so essential if you want to, like I said, elevate your interiors, because it is actually how you can infuse any space with personality and create an emotional connection and feeling. Now, if you've been here for a while, if you've been a long-time listener of the podcast, I'm very grateful that you come back and you're here again with me today. And you'll know that I've spoken about interior styling before. And that's great because you're going to have an understanding of what we're going to talk about today, and you're not going to be starting from scratch. However, today is going to be different because I'm going to walk you through the entire process from start to finish so that you can set yourself up for success. And if you enjoy this episode, please let me know. You can send me a DM on Instagram and at Natalie Walton, or leave a comment in the review section, because I would really appreciate your feedback if you like this kind of episode, the solo ones, or what you love to hear more of. So please, love to get your feedback. Okay, let's get straight into it. Now, as we go through this, I do want you to approach it with beginner's mind. So I want you to listen as if this is the first time you've ever heard me talking about interior styling, because I still think that after all these years, there's so much confusion about what it is and how it can help you and your interiors. And yet, if you look at any beautiful shoot in publications such as Architectural Digest, Vogue Living, any of your favorite product shoots for some of your favorite brands, or the portfolios of leading interior designers, they all use interior stylists to get the right look for their interiors. Actually, just the other day, I saw Jake Arnold. He's a British-born interior designer who's now based in the US, and he was traveling around Europe with his stylist. They were shooting a project in Switzerland. And, just think about that. He is paying to send a stylist and take a stylist alongside with him to capture the space beautifully. Now, he's not just sending a photographer, or he's not just going himself. He wants to take that interior to the next level. He's probably going to be using that photography for his website, for social media, perhaps even for press opportunities. And so I want you to know and understand this is what people at that level are doing. This is what interior styling can do for your business. So it is a skill that you can learn, or it is a skill for your own business, or it is a skill that you can learn to offer that service to other people in their businesses. Or you can just apply these ideas to your own home if that's what you love doing. So I really want to clarify what interior styling actually is, because I even still to this day get students who join the styling masterclass and they're still confused, even though they've joined the program. So I do want to really be very clear on this. Interior design really is all about the frame of the space, whereas interior styling is the art of arranging to create beauty, express personality, and create a feeling or emotion. Now, yes, you could say that, interior styling does that too, but they're through different mechanisms. Interior design, and we're going to get into this in more detail, this is about sourcing and specifying and really about the structure of the space. Whereas interior styling is the finishing touch to any space. So let's just break it down even more. So, if we're starting from a completely empty block of land, let's just take it like as a block of land. So we would get an architect along to design the built environment. So, an architect is going to be specifying, things like the the foundations and steel beams and, all of those kind of things, very technical, because obviously, and they're going to be doing that in conjunction with structural engineers. And, it's very much about the, building that built environment and how that settles and nestles into the landscape and all of those different factors. An interior designer, they're going to specify that frame, so they've got the shell of the building and they are going to specify that from the flooring, the tiles, the hardware, the lighting, the fixtures and fittings. So that is what an interior designer is, specializing in. Now, yes, in all of these different areas, you will get people who they will have certain skills that they will bring to their foundational skill set. But this is at the sort of, I'm looking at the base level of what it is. Interior decoration is more about window treatments, reupholstering sofas, cushions, like balances, pelmets, all of those kind of things. So it's more those decorative touches, and they tend to very much specialize in textiles and fabrics and materials, those that can be easily changed in a space. Interior styling is really the icing on the cake. So we've got the foundations, we've got the ingredients, we've got the frame of the space, we've got the layers of the cake, and interior styling is really the icing on the cake. It is editing the objects that are already there in the space and also can be adding new pieces to the space, either for photography or for the enjoyment of the homeowner. Now, I truly believe that the best interior designers know their specific skill set inside out. They know how to use design programs. They know all about, the thickness of a bench top, which one looks the best, hardware, the position of that on the kitchen cabinetry, the height of shelving, all of those different details, the width of the grout, the color of the grout that they like to use, all of those very nuanced, very specific details. That is really the specialty of interior design, when we get down to it. Now, the best interior stylists, they are focused on the finishing touches. So it is quite distinct in terms of the two different roles. Interior design, it really does require learning and designing on computer programs. Whereas interior styling, you don't need to know any computer programs. I mean, I get people asking me all the time, like, where should I go for further study? I mean, of course, it might sound like I'm biased, but it's truly like the styling masterclass, I truly believe is all that you need to know if you want to learn interior styling. Like, you don't need to know hugely technical programs to do interior styling. That's not what it's all about. So yes, it can help create mood boards. You can create them on free software programs such as Canva, but there are many ways to do that. And we're going to get more into mood boards in a moment. So just really wanting to distinguish that interior design is quite technical, whereas interior styling is more aesthetic, visual, creative, and fluid in a way. So, but of course there's rules, and we're going to get into all that as well in a moment. All right. So now that you've got a better understanding of the role of an interior stylist, let's get into the fun part. It is time to create, and I'm going to walk you through this process step by step. So the first step is all about the vision. And with this, I want you to start with the end in mind. So you want to create a compelling vision for the space that you are going to be styling. You really want to create a vision that excites you. Too often, I see people just kind of shuffling things around within what they've already got. Now, yes, to a degree, there are principles that you can learn, and you can apply these principles into your spaces and your rooms and your homes. But if you are really wanting to take your work to that next level, if you're wanting to take your interiors to that next level, I would really encourage you to start with a blank canvas and go through this process I'm about to teach you and share with you in this podcast episode, and really think big, like really push yourself creatively and see what kind of magic that you can create. So that's why I say create a compelling vision, something that you think like, oh, I would just really love to take this to the next level. So as part of this, step one is really about educating your eye in relation to what you want to achieve. Now, this relates to the location, the style or the architecture of the home, the feeling that you want to create. So when we are educating our eye, yes, we're looking out there for inspiration, but we really need to always be, have some parameters. Otherwise, it's like, well, how long are we going to be doing this? Like, we could just be looking for inspiration forever. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself to kind of keep yourself on track. So one question is, what do I really want to achieve with this space? And this is kind of like more big picture or intentionality. So like, would you love to get your space in a magazine or your home in a magazine? Or would you love to have your project on the cover of a respected industry publication? Or do you really want to attract new clients and you want to show what you're capable of? Or do you just want that kind of creative challenge? Like, personally, for me, when I'm creating spaces, like I want to push myself creatively. I want to sort of do something a little bit different to what I've done before. And I really want to push myself, like, how can I make this the best that it can be? So, for you, it's just to have that creative challenge. And it can be more than one of these things, but ask yourself, like I said, what do I really want to achieve with this space? The next question I want you to ask yourself is, how do I want it to feel? And this is going to guide many of the decisions that you make in terms of the overall vision for the space. And then also when it comes down to sourcing and placement, at a later level when we actually start to do the styling part. So really try and connect with how you want it to feel. Do you want to feel calm? Do you want it to feel inspiring? Do you want it to feel elevated? Do you want it to feel cozy? Do you want it to feel intimate? Like, what is the feeling that you want to create in the space? The next question is, what excites me? So, like I said, really, again, educate your eye and look in unexpected and unusual places too. So look in old art books or old magazines or design books, historical homes, look at films, The Talented Mr. Ripley, The English Patient, or I Am Love with Tilda Swinton. Like, go for ones that are not just being created now, but that are sort of like 10, 20, 50 years old, and have a look at those kind of films. Like, oh gosh, the one with Dustin Hoffman, Something About Mrs. Robinson. That one, like, there's some really classic ones. The one that Tom Ford directed years and years ago with Julianne Moore, like the art direction on those films and the sets are just so beautiful. Ones that are kind of located in a particular period of time, like the 70s or the 50s, and really look at those kind of interiors. So, just open your eyes to different ideas. And then ask yourself as well, how can I create something different? And so this is really about tapping into your creativity, creating something that's unique or different to what you're seeing out there. So taking this inspiration, but then twisting it through and filtering it through what excites you, what you love in spaces, what you value in spaces, what you have that emotional connection to, how you're responding to the light in this space, this home or interior, how you're responding to its location, all of those different things. Keep filtering through that. And, think, how can you give this a new twist or a new angle or build upon another idea? Don't just copy somebody else's idea. It will always be a pale imitation, but really try and do something different and something that feels unique and authentic to you and excites you and inspires you. And with this whole process, this kind of vision process and going through these questions and finding the inspiration, really give yourself a time limit, because otherwise you'll just never get to the creation process. So, I love a deadline and how important a deadline is. So, this whole process, when I was creating for magazines and doing lots of that type of work, this would be no more than a day to do this. I mean, sometimes even just a few hours. So, and that was for building like 3 different room sets. So you really want to sort of like give yourself a certain amount of time, maybe an hour or, a shorter period of time, because you don't want to just get lost in it. And, certainly social media wasn't at the level of image saturation and all of those things that it is now. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so step 2 as part of this styling playbook is all around mood boards and the most common and effective types of mood boards. So now that you've got some ideas and inspiration, it's time to bring it all together and get clarity about, what this step looks like. So I have an assignment in the styling masterclass, and sometimes students put, I'm basically getting them to create a mood board. And so sometimes I do see like people putting tiles in there or other fixtures. And, like I said, that really relates more to interior design than to styling. So we want to create a mood board that starts to bring to life the idea that we have for this space. And when I'm creating a mood board for styling, I really do create one for every space rather than an overall vision. It's not a vision board in terms of, what you would necessarily create if you're doing with a client for interior design. But, when I'm actually working on a very specific shoot, I will create a mood board for each space. And I find it helpful as well to create a sketch of the space, of where I'm going to put all the objects. And it's a very, very basic sketch. I'm not particularly good at art in terms of drawing yet. That's kind of like one of my bucket list things that, maybe one day I'll go and do proper art classes and learn how to actually draw properly. But that's for another day. Because a basic sketch is all you need. It's just a communication tool. It's not about somebody judging your sketch or making, whatever. And I literally use this basically to make sense of my ideas. So it's kind of like I'm looking at the moment, I'm in sort of the dining area of the studio. And so I'm looking like literally, if I was looking at the scene that's right in front of my eyes right now, I would sketch the window, I would sketch the window seat, and I would kind of sketch some of the cushions. And I might even like have little line arrows saying like pattern, or like kind of do stripes on one, very basic kind of stripes, or, draw in a pendant, or like draw in a chair that, okay, maybe if I was to completely redo this space and take this table out, then I might put a different rug, like a round rug in this space, put a chair, put a little side table, and I would sketch all of those different elements within the space so that I've got a sense of like, okay, this is how I'm going to approach this. And when I do that, then I really start to know that I'm getting all the elements that I need in the space in there. And that's why I like kind of having a blank sheet of paper, because it's like I'm starting from scratch. I'm using those foundations, like, yes, this is where the window is, this is where the door is, or maybe a fireplace or some of those fixed elements, but I'm creating something new within that. And I would also sometimes share that sketch with the photographer, because they might say, okay, well, what are we doing with this space? Particularly if we've stripped it out and we're going to recreate something very different in there. So at times in the studio, we have moved the bed, moved the bookcase, and it's like, okay, we're going to create a Christmas dining table here. So the photographer wants to know, okay, so what are we doing? Have we got a pendant? Have we got a table? Where are the chairs going? And so to have a very quick sketch is a very easy way to communicate that to the photographer. Like, here, look, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And they don't care what it looks like. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's very easy, quick communication tool. And when I was doing for the magazines, certainly at the start, they wanted to see more extensive mood boards in terms of understanding, okay, like that's the chair that I'm going to be using, that's the table, because they might say, no, we don't want you to use those chairs because we're getting tired of seeing those. They've been in too many spaces, or we've featured them too often recently, or no, we don't like that artwork. It's, we've already got a house that's going to be featuring that week, or that month in the magazine. So, then it's when you're doing it for a client, in some instances, you're getting approval. And so they might be making decisions based on what you're including in that mood board. And so it can be very much a communication tool. It's not just like this, I just want to make a mood board because I just like doing pretty things. It is actually a communication tool, which is really important to understand. And when I was starting out, I was using InDesign on the magazine. So that's how I started to create my mood boards. But there are many different ways you can do it. You can use PowerPoint. You can use, obviously, Canva, as I've mentioned, which is free. It's easy to use. You can even just do it in a Word doc, or a Google Doc. Like it's not about how you create it, but it's about what you include in it. Now, obviously, if you were doing this for clients, I would recommend start be using things such as Canva, so it can look more professional and you're really sort of elevating your status, and the service and the standard that you're presenting. But if it is just for you, then you don't need to get too fancy or any of those things. Okay, step three. Step three to really know how to style with confidence is about sourcing. And sometimes, like I said, this does go hand in hand with creating your mood boards, because you need to know which objects you're going to include for your mood board, particularly if you are presenting it to a client for approval. But you can also use placeholders if this is more an exploratory process. So sometimes you might start with placeholders like, I want to get a rug that looks a bit like this, or I want to get a chair that looks a bit like this. And so you're not going to spend hours trying to find the perfect chair for the mood board to start off with. Maybe you're just playing with how these different objects look like. You might want to have a seagrass rug, but and you'll just find something as a reference. But then when it comes to sourcing, you might, and again, this comes down to what the type of shoot it is. If it is for a client and they've got a particular budget, then you might then start looking, okay, well, they had a good image, and so that's why I used that one, but I'm going to go to this different supplier because that's more within the price range of this particular client. Or it might be to do with sizing, that that particular supplier used their image, but they don't have the right size that you need. Maybe you're looking for a round rug and you wanted a certain diameter and they don't have it at that diameter. Or maybe they're out of stock. There are so many different reasons why you might need to look around at different suppliers. If it is for an editorial style shoot where you are either loaning, or even if it's for a client and you're paying a fee to loan the objects for a shoot because you just want to take that project to the next level, then it might be related to delivery. Some people might be easier to deal with. Like they might say, hey, look, we're happy to loan you this rug if you can provide us with a credit on social media, and we'd love to use the imagery on our feed, and we're happy to loan it for free. There might be a circumstance like that. So you might choose certain suppliers because of those reasons. And there's all these different factors that you need to keep in mind. And, if you're loaning, is that the client paying it? Is this you paying it? And other things, or will you be returning? What's involved in that? Okay, so then comes the styling. And there are a couple of different stages involved with this. We have got the preparation that is involved. So obviously that is the literal, the sourcing and going out and organizing delivery. And you might have a delivery truck if you've got a lot of product on a shoot, or the suppliers might be delivering. I've had that happen a lot where they say, they're based in another part of the country and yet we'll post that out to you. So you might need to have a holding place where you can receive the stock. It might be your own home. When I was working at the magazine, there was a loading dock, so we would get things sent there. And but it was the timing, because the loading dock had, I can't remember how many magazines, like let's say they had 20 publications and everyone's been getting sent stuff. So they would be very particular that we weren't allowed to have stuff just sitting there. So it had to then go up to our office. Then I would then take it home or bring my car in and take it home that way. And it was like all these logistics of it. So you really got to think about the logistics of getting these props, going and sourcing these different things. And if you are loaning, generally people don't want to be loaning it out to you for too much of a long period. They want a quick turnaround so it can be back in store or on their shelves. And you want to have things sometimes like I will have blankets or drop sheets or bubble wrap so that, I'm making sure that it's well protected. It's not going to get damaged, because sometimes people just like hand you like, here's a stack of cushions, and then you've got to put them in your car and you're like, well, I don't really want to be, I've got to be having flowers in there and other things. And so you might want to have like your own bags. Like way back in the day, I wouldn't really do this now, but I used to use, those big IKEA shopping bags, like the really bit massive yellow ones. I don't know if they still have them, but I used to use those. Like now I use like market baskets, or like I've got some big linen ones, or even if you have like a big linen, like a drop sheet, like a painter's drop sheet, and you can just wrap it around, or sheets, or whatever it is. And so yeah, you just obviously need to be prepared and know all of that. Then there will be fresh props that you will need to get more than likely on the day of the shoot, because otherwise they wilt or don't look great, such as food, flowers, foliage, going to florists. And so you will need to buy those on the day of the shoot. You will need to have your toolkit, which will include things like a fishing line if you're hanging artwork, blue tack, scissors, secateurs, tape. Those are some of the key things you want to have in your toolkit. You want to be thinking about the clothing that you're wearing. If you're moving a lot of things, then, unpacking trucks and unpacking your car, carrying heavy items of furniture and things like that. You really want to be wearing comfortable clothing that's practical, comfortable shoes, trainers, flat shoes. I always like to try and wear like something that's got pockets, whether it's like jeans or shorts, so I can put my phone in there. Make sure you've got water, food, snacks, lunch plan. All of these are different things that you need to take into consideration. So then we've got the shoot, the actual shoot. So we've kind of you can see how much goes into this. So on the shoot, if it's photography, you will really be guided by the light in terms of which spaces you do first, and what is, if it's like east facing and you want to catch morning sun, then you might go there first. But if that sun is too hot, you might start in another room. You also will want to make a decision on terms of which spaces you're going to prioritize. Usually it's the kind of like the kitchen, living, dining area are the key ones, and then the sort of the bedroom and the bathroom, and really focusing on those before you kind of get too much into other areas such as hallways or outdoor spaces or kids' rooms. And then with the styling itself, then you might just be switching some objects out. So maybe they've got a rug, it's looking a little tired, so you're going to put a new rug in, or you're just going to have some smaller props that you're going to be doing. You're going to be editing their things, their pieces that, don't work proportionally or, really elevate the space. Or you might also just strip back and start with a blank canvas. And this is usually like my favorite way, because then I feel that I'm really channeling how I want it to look and getting back to that original vision. So, you need to be referring back to your mood boards and your vision boards and kind of staying connected with that, because it can be very easy when you're in the moment to then get distracted and then be sort of like, oh, I'm just going to be like shuffling things around, rather than like, no, like my intention was that I really wanted to take this project to the next level. So I need to stay in that headspace. So there are many, steps to this. I've got a styling handbook, which includes the rules of styling, how to develop your signature style, 15 ways to make more money as an interior stylist, email pitching templates, and what to charge for your services and more. So if you want to get a bit more detailed on the sort of the step-by-step of the styling process, because I kind of break that down in there, you can go to nataliewalton.com/handbook, go grab that. And we've got a few more points that we're going to cover to really know and understand the kind of the whole process, not just like the styling of it, if you understand what I mean. So, okay, let's get into the photography. So if you're doing it yourself, you really want to, and even if you're doing it with a photographer, you want to try and get as many shots as possible, especially now. I mean, there used to be a time where it was like you would just get one living room, one detail of the living room, and that was it. But now when people are using imagery for social media, you really want to get as many shots as you can. You're there, you've styled it, like really maximize it as much as possible. Just a little tip, if you're using your phone, make sure that you're holding your phone to a 90-degree angle, or your camera to 90-degree angle to the space, so you're not kind of getting distortion. And it's always a really good idea to put the grid lines on your phone or your camera as well. Make sure everything is lined up nicely. Then do a review. So I'm always, I'm styling the space and I'm always looking into the back of the camera. My preference is actually to look into the back of the camera or the actual viewfinder. I actually like to look through that because I like that I'm just seeing the frame of the space and what's in that shot, and I'm not getting distracted by anything else. So I'm really focusing on, are all those key elements in that space and really working in there. And but you can also look on the computer. Many photographers tether their laptop to the camera, so you can look on the back of the computer in that way. And then reviewing in terms of like then when you receive the images from the photographer or you're downloading them, when you're in the moment and then you look at them, like even if it's an hour later or the next day, you see things very differently as well. And then you obviously, even when you start to select them for your website or your socials, every point you're looking at them and making judgment calls and really getting to know and understand like what worked, what didn't. And this is how you refine your eye over time and really filtering it every step. And I also think it's really a healthy, well, not healthy, but a helpful, I should say, exercise to review other people's work as well. Really educate your eye on what they've done and why they've done it. And when you're looking at your favorite feeds, like really notice those details and why they've placed certain objects in certain places and what they've placed on their coffee tables and, what they have done in terms of the way that they've twisted the chair, and notice all of those little details. What type of foliage or flowers have they used? And it's really important to have that curiosity about why people have done things. And this is why, I really encourage students in the styling masterclass to review each other's work as well, because, research shows this is actually how we learn. We learn when we teach, and we learn when we actually, it's not just doing the work, but we kind of reflect on what we've done as well. So I always include exercises to reflect back on your own work. And then feedback. So, I think that this is a really important part of the creative process, is actually getting feedback from other people as well. So obviously you need to know within yourself whether you've done a good job and whether you're happy with that. But there is something about getting feedback from an external source that is very powerful. So for me, it used to be the editor. It was like, is she going to like it? Oh gosh, I hope she likes it. And feeling sick in the stomach, whether she would. Even when you're working with a photographer, it's like, what do you think? Do you think this is all right? And you're having that kind of conversation with them. So you're kind of getting that instant feedback with the photographer. That's why it's good to work with someone that you work with a lot, because they can be really honest with you, and saying, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think that's really working, or whatever that might be. You've got maybe a client, then so you might be sort of getting feedback from the client, and hopefully it's all good. But you could even just trying to understand. I mean, you might be saying, so which are your favorite images, and really helpful to understand, like, what do they love? And really noticing as well, then if you are doing it for a client, or I would always do this for the magazine, like, so which images are they going to run, and which one are they running big, and which one are they running small? And the same with if you've got a client, like, which ones are they sharing on socials? Where are they putting these on their website? Which ones are they using as the hero image? If it's a photographer, which ones are they sharing on their feed or on their website? Like, notice all of these little things. And when you share your imagery on socials, this is why it's so good to do this, is you then start to get that feedback as well. What is resonating with other people? Because it can be different sometimes, and to kind of get that outside perspective can be really helpful. And then I finally just wanted to share some resources to share your work. So what I mean by this is, even if you don't have a website yet, as I've said, it's so important to share your work, and social media really is still really the best place to do this. And when I say social media, I'm really talking about Instagram. It really is your business card. If that is something that you want to pursue more, you want to do more, you really want to show what you're capable of and putting your best work out there. And I think sometimes there can be a bit of a reluctance to do this even still. And like, oh, why should I bother? Why should I try? And I just wanted to give you this little example. I've got a friend who is in the food industry, and she started to create an internet reels series about visiting, she was just doing it because she was passionate about this particular thing. And she would go and visit different hospitality places and showcase their food, and like a whole range of different, from really cheap food trucks to delis and things like that. And she did this because this was her passion. This was something that she really loved doing, and now she's had an amazing opportunity. And this is a thing that people take notice. Like, when you give something your everything and you make it the best that it possibly can be, doors open for you. And doors can open for you in ways that you never even expected. So really, I still think that Instagram can be such a powerful tool if you give it, everything that you've got. And I know that sounds like a bit intense, but in a creative sense, like really try and create your best work and use your creativity. I think we just sometimes can be so safe and hold back. And then it's like, why is this not happening for me? Well, have you really given it your best shot? Have you really pushed yourself and pushed your creativity to its limits? Like really push yourself and test to see what works, because that's what's going to ultimately get you the results. So anyway, I just wanted to share that example because I thought it was really powerful. Okay, let's just do a quick review of these different ideas in relation to, your step-by-step guide to elevating your interiors. So first of all, we talked about the vision and how important it is to really create a vision that is compelling, that excites you, and that you feel really connected with, and be really intentional with what you're trying to create. We looked at mood boards and the role that they play in them and how they really can be a communication tool. We looked at the importance of sourcing and that how you can do this, and really, I didn't touch on this so much in here. I do more in the handbook, but that the objects that you source matter. Like, don't just go and get the cheap thing from Kmart. Like, you really want to, and it's not about being expensive, but really make sure that everything is there for a reason. Number 4 is about the actual styling process. So we looked at the preparation process, the shoot day, the styling of the objects, and the different elements that are involved in that. Then we've looked at the photography and some tips for you to really make the most of your photography. Then we looked at the importance of reviewing your work, whether that is on the back of the camera, on the shoot day, or even if you're in the space and it's your own home, and really educating your eye and making that a continual process. And then the importance of feedback and why feedback can actually help you grow and help you learn. And then number 7 was basically the importance of sharing your work and how you can do that, and the importance of really showing your best work. So I really want you to do something, at least one thing on the back of this. So maybe it's grabbing that handbook. Like I said, I'll put it in the link in the show notes, but it's nataliewalton.com/handbook if you want to go grab that. Maybe it's signing up for Canva if you haven't done that yet. It's free. It's so easy to use. Create your first mood board. Create a mood board for a space in your own home. Or share something on Instagram, share something that you've already styled and you want to put it out there and start to sort of get some of that feedback. I would love to hear from you if you found this episode valuable. This is episode 196. And please, like I said, send me a DM on Instagram at Natalie Walton. If you have enjoyed this episode, or you can leave a little comment in the review section. Would love to hear from you. And until next week, I hope that your week is beautiful. Thanks so much for listening. All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.